There is a popular saying in leadership that if you think you're leading and there's nobody following you, you are only going on a walk. On this platform, you are going to learn principles of leadership. You are going to encounter different leaders. You are going to learn about how you can grow as a leader, how you can make an impact. My name is Samuel Eyim, and I'm the host for the leadership platform. I am a leadership coach, a lawyer by profession, a John C. Maxwell certified coach. I have been in corporate life in senior positions for several years, and now I run the Center for Transformational Leadership, where we train and coach leaders to become better leaders. And I invite you to go on a journey with us as we discuss the subject of leadership in the coming weeks.
This and every Saturday, you have opportunity to ask questions, share your views on important leadership matters.
You see, the only thing you got to worry about tomorrow is making sure that you make today count. This is your day to learn how to change your world.
I need you to focus on why you were born.
Let's not lose what made us, but let's grip the future and let's become the best version for next year.
Most success is when a person develops ordinary qualities to an extraordinary degree through the application of hard, sustained work.
Now, for some people, this is not easy, but there is no good reason for not doing it.
You and I were created to make a difference.
Hello. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Leadership Platform. My name is Samuel Eyim, and I'm excited this evening to be with you on the Leadership Platform. We know that many of you are going to connect, and you are connected. And so if you are connected, please introduce yourself. We know that many of you, when you connect, you don't introduce yourself. But today we have a friend and a brother from Zambia, and he would love to know all those who are online. So don't hide behind, just introduce yourself. Tell us your name and where you are connecting from. We will be very happy to announce you to the world that you are on the Leadership Platform. So feel free. We are going to have a very exciting discussion as we continue with our series on extraordinary leadership stories. Our objective on this platform is to improve our leadership. So we want to encourage learning from great leaders, from leadership examples that we can all pick from. So every week, for the last 2 years plus, we have been doing this platform, and we've brought you great leaders. Now, today, we are going to bring you a leader from Africa, beyond Ghana. Most of the leaders who have spoken to us have been from Ghana, but we are focused on African leadership, so we want to encourage you. Because of the nature of this series, I'm not even going to say too much about our speaker, because we're going to dissect him. We're going to ask him to tell us a lot. So get ready as we get ready. But quickly, let me say that two things. Live to Lead is on October 7th. This is the biggest leadership event in the world, and we want to make sure that the first Friday of every October is made a leadership day in our part of the world and across the world. That is when great leaders like John Maxwell and others gather and share leadership thoughts and ideas. And we're going to bring you that. In addition to all the international speakers who will be on the platform, we are bringing you Patrick Ewa, we are bringing you other great leaders from Ghana who will be on the platform before John and the others join. So please register now. It is $79 only. So please get your ticket as quickly as possible. We're running an early bird up to end of August, and up to end of August is around $70. So you can register now and get your ticket so that you can beat the early bird. From 1st of September, the price goes back to $79. So please register for that. The second thing is that the growth journey, the fourth cohort of the growth journey is gradually coming to an end. And so in September, we are, in October, we are soon after Live to Lead, we are beginning the next cohort of the growth journey. So please, those of you who couldn't register for the fourth cohort, get ready and register. This is a great 15-week program that is going to help you grow yourself, become a better human being. All right, so our speaker is ready. So let me see who is in the house. I have Sarah Jessiapia from Geneva. She's in the house. Kofi and Abigail are supporting me from behind. And on the platform today, I have Conrad Kakraba, who says he can't wait to hear the full story of this awesome man. All right, so you are going to hear Dennis from Sakumono is here. Fayatu Abdul Mumin is here. Good evening, he says to all of us. I have BKA. This is Bright Apia, also from Ghana. I have Gerard Foucault joining also from Accra. Martin Etia is joining from Ashamine and Ghana. Christopher Gavo is joining from Koforidia. He's here with us. Willie Blay is connecting from Palime in Togo. Willie, you are welcome. Bonsoir. George Akpabli is joining from Accra. Charity Lukanganyama. I'm sorry for breaking and massacring your name, but Charity from Zambia, you are welcome to the leadership platform. All right, so I'm sure so many people join who don't introduce themselves. That's fine. But this evening, we are going to talk about the story of my brother, Kennedy Mwila. And I met Kennedy a couple of months ago when we did the Made in Africa Leadership Conference. As part of the conference, which was held in Lusaka, Zambia, we visited some organizations to see how they're doing and to have leadership experience in action. And I was privileged to visit Kennedy's organization, which is the Lusaka South Multi-Facility Economic Zone. And he gave us a brief presentation about the history of the organization, and it caught my attention. So there and then I told Kennedy, this is a great story, and I would like you to come and share this story on the leadership platform. And he gladly accepted. So Kennedy is going to tell us all about himself. So I'm not going to go there. We're going to just ask him. He's going to tell us where he started from, his life, his career, and then he will tell us about his organization, when he took over and how he has run it, where he took it from, where he is, and where he's going to go. So without much ado, I can see Kennedy is up. It's late in Zambia. It's 9 p.m. But he's sacrificed and he's willing to share his story with us. So on that note, I am glad and happy, and let us all give a virtual welcome to our brother and friend, Kennedy Mwila, who is the CEO of the Lusaka South Multi-Facility Economic Zone. Kennedy, it is my great pleasure and gratitude to have you on the leadership platform. You are very welcome. If you can hear me. Hello, Kennedy. You are welcome to the leadership platform. Hello. I can see Kennedy talking, but I can't hear him. I hope he's not muted. I think you are muted. Okay, you are muted. Let me see if I will unmute you here. Okay. Okay.
Hello,
okay,
can you hear me now?
Yes. Thank you so much, Kennedy. You are welcome to the leadership platform.
Thank you so much. And I'm glad you invited me to come and appear on your program. Thank you so much once again. And I hope Ghana is listening and the continent is listening. I'm all yours
Thank
today.
you so much. Wonderful. Ghana is listening very well, and Africa is listening to your story. So how is Lusaka this evening? How is the city? What's going on by now, Saturday evening in Lusaka?
Well, the weather is getting warmer in Lusaka, but of course, this is 9 p.m. here, so it's quite in the night. And I'm sure we'll be getting a bit of breeze, but we are happy. We are okay. Zambia is fine. Lusaka is okay. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much. All right. So let's start from here. Let's start from Zambia. I know that sometimes we Africans, we know more about Europe, about America than our own continent. So let me start from here, Kennedy. Give us just a brief overview of Zambia. How is Zambia like? What's the population of Zambia? Where is Zambia? I'm sure if I ask here on the platform, where is Zambia? Some people will probably tell me it's in West Africa. So tell us briefly, what is Zambia? What is the situation in Zambia, the people like? Just a brief overview for us to know Zambia.
Thank you so much. Zambia is a country in the southern part of Africa. We are a member of SADC. Now, for the most part of demonstration and definitions, sometimes people misconstrue Zambia to Gambia. I know Gambia is on the western side of the continent. We are right in the heart of SADC. We are a country with a population averaging around 18 million. And of course, I must say a young, youthful population. Zambia recently, should I say recently or a year now, went through an election. We have new leadership. This is a leadership program, and I think I wouldn't shy away from pointing to the fact that we are a democracy and had our election last year where new leadership was actually installed. And we are happy that the transitions in Zambia normally are smooth. Therefore, we are an example and a beacon of peace on the continent. So for those who don't know Zambia, briefly, we have about 8 to 9 neighbors. We don't have a sea coast, but we are we're happy because we are land linked. Therefore, we can connect with every one of the countries around us via road, rail, or in fact, through air travel. So we are endowed with a lot of neighborhood. And let me also just add that the part that we exist in as a country, we are amongst the Southern African countries with a total population in excess of 400 million. So briefly, that's where we are. Of course, our capital is Lusaka, where I'm speaking from. And that's Zambia in a nutshell.
Great. Thank you so much. So I mean, Ghana, we are known for cocoa, we are known for gold. And what are the primary products for Zambia? What are the economic strength of Zambia?
Okay. Let me say we are a rising economy where we sit right now. And of course, in terms of what actually we are exporting to the world, what are we giving to the world, apart from just human capital, we are stronger in extractive industries. Therefore, we are known for our copper that we export largely on the western part of the world, as well as the eastern part of the world. We also are getting stronger in agriculture and agro processing. We are a country that is trying to diversify a little bit from the copper and the mining industries to look at other sectors of the global economy where we can actually leverage and have advantage. And having been a country that is endowed with natural resources, especially water, as well as arable land, we see ourselves getting slowly into defining ourselves or redefining ourselves, as it were, into a food basket of the continent. So apart from just exporting what we would call our traditional exports in minerals, we are slowly getting into agro-processing as well as manufacturing. That defines what our economic stratosphere looks like at the moment.
Thank you so much, Kennedy, for that brief geography lesson. My geography teacher died very early, so I appreciate the short lesson on geography. But so let's come to you. Briefly, tell us about who Kennedy Mwila is. Who are you?
That's a very interesting question that you asked me, because coincidentally today, I was having a conversation with my kids and I asked them who they thought I was. What is interesting is some of the feedback I got, people thought of me as a go-getter. One of my kids said, "You are strong-willed." Somebody said, "You are confident." Another one thought I was generous. And of course, my little one said, "I'm fun to be with." But if you ask me who I am, I would want to give you a bit of background before I define myself.
Good.
I'm born in a family of 7. And of course, I'm the firstborn. Already, again, you see that by birth, I'm a leader in that family.
Okay.
I was born of teachers.
You and I share that one, but I beat you because I'm first of 15.
That's awesome. So my parents were both teachers, and you can imagine, very instructional, and of course, very well cultured. I come from that kind of background. I'm a Christian, but of course, to just go a bit faster, in my childhood, I thought I was chosen consistently.
Oh, all right. This is Africa. We're having a little internet challenge, but Kennedy will connect back as he's telling us his story. This is getting interesting. The internet just tripped off, but never mind. We'll get him back. He's told us a bit about Zambia and what they produce in Zambia. 18 million population, landlocked in a small country. He's the firstborn of 7 children born to a family of teachers. That's what he was telling us. All right, welcome back, Kennedy. We just had a brief interlude to recap what you were saying to us. So go ahead.
Thank you so much. So I continue from where I ended. So I'm a Christian, and in my childhood,
Hello?
on a number of times, hello, can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Uh-oh. All right. Hello.
We can hear you.
Yes,
we can
now
hear you. We can hear you.
All right.
Okay, thank you so
Go
much.
ahead.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so I took up quite a number of leadership roles in my childhood, starting from church, where I would be chosen into leadership roles, which I thought I enjoyed, but they also helped me to grow as a leader. In my childhood, again at school, I took up a few leadership roles, most of them relating to study as well as being leader at science. So I defined myself deliberately from childhood as an upcoming leader. Now, if you ask me who I am today, of course,
Is it
everybody.
me?
Am I audible?
You went off briefly from my end when you were talking about your leadership roles as a child in church and in school.
Yes, 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 yes. Of course, I've done normal curriculum like anybody else on the continent. We go to school, and I'm a person who is very strong with numbers. So I'm a finance person, I'm a risk person. But because of my participation in leadership and as a child, I was more skilled to trying to do things that were away from the normal science of things. So I started to study people. So as I speak right now, I call myself a psychologist. I hope I'm audible. Am I audible
Yes,
there?
yes, 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 yes. I can hear
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank you so much.
Yes.
So, in the cocktail of things, my studies define me as a scientist, as a number cruncher, but of course, at the end of the day, I'm a business person because I've got to run businesses. My early career was in finance, where I worked with Stanbic Bank for quite a while from 1998, 99 there, all the way up to 2006 when we parted. And I went on into developmental projects. Now, from the private sector into the public sector, and you can imagine the shock in terms of the way things are done. The differences are quite enormous there. But I stayed in the public sector on infrastructure development, especially water, for about 30 years. My 13 years lapsed somewhere in 2019 when I thought of trying to look for new challenges. Fast forward in 2020, I saw an opportunity in joining the Lusaka South Mount Facility, where I then was taken up as a finance person heading the finance team before I assumed my current role as director for this company.
Okay.
So, who
So
do I
Kennedy,
say I am?
we'll come to your current role, but let's pick up a few things from the story so far that you've told us. Very, very impressive. So your parents were teachers, and we know that in Africa, in particular, teachers are not the most wealthy people. So tell us a bit the family background, 7 children to 2 teachers. What was the situation? What was the economic situation around which you grew up?
Okay. If I got you right, you are trying to ask me to elaborate a bit more on my childhood and how I grew up in that teacher's family. Am I right?
Yes.
Thank you so much. So, in a family of 7, as you can imagine, on the continent of Africa, it's not the easiest of things to raise that huge family when you are teachers. But of course, every circumstance defines who you are in terms of character. Difficult environments breed very tough people. So in my family, as a firstborn and as a leader, I had to be an example in so many ways. For starters, when you're the firstborn in a huge family,
Oh my gosh. We'll get through. All right. Okay. Sorry. We're back. Good. Yes, go ahead, Kennedy. We lost you when you were describing when you were first born in a family of teachers and 7 children, how difficult it was. Did you hear me?
yes, I can. I can.
Okay. All right. So go ahead, please.
Yes, please. So you are sacrificed at some point. You've got to be.
Okay. Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's the Internet of Things. Sometimes there are disruptions.
Yes, I know. Do you have two equipments on? Do you have two? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. So, as I was saying, being a firstborn, you've got to understand that sometimes there've got to be sacrifices that you've got to make, because you've got to be an example to those that are coming behind you. But of course, in your sacrifices, you then create character, and you start to impose yourself as the leader from the get-go. But also, let me mention that because you're a child of a teacher, I think there are so many things that you've got to learn to live with. For example, instructions. Teachers are quite instructional, and I love that part of their lives and of their teaching. So I grew up in a home where instruction was my bread and butter. Okay, that groomed me into the person that I would say one who started to develop the art of listening. Because when you are in an environment where instructions are flourishing, you tend to widen your ears and become the focal point of all those messages, because you've got to lead by example for those who are coming just behind you. So in a nutshell, I think I grew the character that I am today from being a part of that good home that gave me instruction time and again. And actually, I owe who I am mostly to the home that I grew up with. Speaking about my kids, yes, everyone is diverse, but of course, I hope that I'm still the example that they would have wanted to continue looking at every time.
Great. Thank you so very much. Now, you talk about you work for Stanbic and then the development project in the water area. What was that? What was specifically involved? We know Stanbic, so we know the banking discipline, and then you move from that to the water development area. What role was that?
From Stanbic, I was also in finance, where you're basically looking at the interests of the banked economy, so to speak. So I spent time looking at the detail of numbers. And in the detail of numbers, I would say it developed my IQ. My IQ was actually quite high, because I was dealing with things that required a sense of detail that you don't find in many other sectors of the economy. So when I moved to the Devolution Trust Fund, it was an altogether different environment. What I realized there is it did not so much matter how good I was with my numbers. It much more mattered how I interacted with people. The environment exposed me to now what I would want to call my social network, or my social quotient, my SQ. I saw myself meeting different people. You know, when you're dealing in the water, we are working in the water sector, most of your interactions are the vulnerable. People who don't want anything else apart from seeing water run down their tap. I went down to communities, interact, then of course went out to go now mobilize resources to come and help inject into those infrastructure that would deliver that water service to themselves. I started being much more a social being than I was a much more technical accountant. So I met people, and I guess that's where my social quotient was developed, so to speak.
So were you also an accountant with the water development company? Were you in the finance section?
I headed the finance function, but what was interesting is I saw myself much more of a social scientist than a financial scientist. So there was more interaction with people than what I would have been interacting with numbers at the bank. So yes, I was heading the finance function, but I hived off a part of me to be a people person.
Great. I like that. So, because we find that sometimes a lot of finance people just get inside the numbers and they don't get into the people relationships, and so I think you did a good job to try to combine the two. And how easy, difficult was it? for you?
Well, let me not say it's not scientific. What you've got to understand is sometimes you've got to learn to broaden your roles if you have to be noticeable. If you have to create impact, especially amongst the people, you've got to broaden your horizon. And I think what I did for me was I still saw people in the numbers. In that finance role, I saw people. So what I did is I got at the deeper end of the business to appreciating who the beneficiaries were. And in my realization, I think I got to note that for me to be excelling in my role, I've got to attach my role to the benefactors. So it's got to start from the people who are demanding the service we are offering before I've got to sit down in my office to count what numbers look like. So it was a bottom-top approach because our program was demand-driven. We had to go to the people, identify the need, then create that need into a scientific form that can be funded by way of a project. So that route meant that I didn't just need to sit down and count my numbers and see how well we were doing. I needed to assess ourselves from the impact we were creating on the ground. So it became a little bit of an easy flip of the coin, so to speak, but of course, over a longer period of time.
Thank you very much. But was this a government role, or it was an NGO role, or was a private sector role? I mean, providing water to the people.
Okay. This is purely a government role. So I ended up, remember I mentioned I was moving from the private sector into the public sector. So it was a government role and not inside government. I would call it quasi-government, but of course, purely representing government's ambition and of course, motivation to servicing the people.
Yeah, I asked this because I know that the transition from a private sector to the public sector, you're transitioning from finance into, people, relationships, and social impact. So you are transitioning from two levels. And how did you combine those transitions? And what lessons did you learn?
There are times when certain things have to happen when nature allows them to. What you do on your part is to accept that you've got to be changed. Us finance people can be rigid people. And that is again from the teaching that we come from. So to move from a purely number crunching individual to a social being, you've got to go through a lot of what I would call metamorphosis. You've got to accept being changed. The moment you open up yourself to new learning, then the adjustments becomes a bit smoother. But you also depend on the environment that you are working in. Mostly for my part, I had a very good team around me. And I think the team made it very easy for me to express my role in spite of the changes and differences in the sectors from private into public. So the confusion could not have been spotted. One would have thought I was a natural in my new role then in the public service. But alas, to mention that it had to take a little bit of sacrifices, but much more so the people around sacrificing their time as well to make it happen for me. Those made it easy.
All right. Thank you so very much. All right. So now we know who Kennedy is, the finance person, the psychologist, the business person, the social scientist, and a developmental person, people's person, a person who is straddling between private and public sector, crossing finance into general management and development. This is the person who has been talking to us. He's Kennedy Mwila. He's the CEO of the Lusaka South Multi-Facility Economic Zone. So now we want to come back because the story of Kennedy on transformational leadership, we are seeing how he's been, transforming himself. And now we want to look at when he joined the Lusaka South Multi-Facility Economic Zone, what he did there, till he rose to the top, and what has happened to the organization since he joined. So this is the journey we are with Kennedy, and he's telling us a very beautiful, and there's so many lessons that I am already learning, and I hope you're taking notes. Take notes and get your questions ready. All right, so how did you move now from your developmental role now into the economic zone company?
Thank you so much. You know, most developmental programs have a cycle which is defined. There will be the time when this program starts and the moment when the program has to come to an end. Now, this program that I joined started somewhere in 2005, and it ran all the way up to 2018. Okay. At that point, the government of the Republic of Zambia made a decision to discontinue with this particular program or to change it into something different. But the nature of the change meant that one had to completely end to pave way for the other. So 2019, we wound the program completely. By June or so, somewhere about, that program was normal. So my moving into the Lusaka South end phase was at the expiry of one program, okay, and the chance for me to look at a new challenge. And of course, the new challenge came to my face. Thankfully, I got my job as the head of finance and administration at the Lusaka South Multi-Facility Economic Zone Limited in 2020 March. When I walked in the first day, of course, I was happy because I continued to transform. Now I was moving from just one using developmental, but getting back into the economics of things. I was back onto the economics fire, and of course, so much back in my role as a finance head.
Okay. Now, before you go into your role and then how you rose, can you tell us a bit about what the economic zone concept is, and briefly how your particular economic zone entity fits into the whole Zambian structure of economic zones?
Okay, thank you so much. So in a nutshell, economic zones are places that are designated usually by governments for various countries to be conduits or drivers of manufacturing. So these are areas that are created so that investors can come set up their factories, start to manufacture, and of course promote export mostly. In Ghana, you have economic zones. I've visited some where there's a lot of export that is happening there. So they're a kind of a structure that are there to accelerate development, accelerate industrialization, and also incentivize those investors who are participating in these economic zones. So normally there will be an incentive for you to come and invest in an economic zone. It could be on taxes, it could be on non-physical incentives, it could be anything, but the government makes an intention to grow the economy using this secluded area with a defined kind of interest they want to chase. Most economic zones, for example, in West Africa, they are centered on export. The economic zones, as we know them in Zambia, they came to help us diversify the economy, like I said, from the extractive industries into manufacturing. The concept of economic zones came to Zambia in about early 2000s. Around 2005, we had the first economic zone on where we said the copper belt, and by its just name there, you can tell that this is an area where there's a lot of copper. That was the first economic zone. Then, of course, there came a few others along the way, but I must mention that on the realization, the government of the people of Zambia in 2010 decided to have their first public-led economic zone. So they established Lusaka South so that they could use it as a prototype to see if at all it can accelerate industrialization and speak to the anthem of the country to diversifying the economy of our country. So where we are a prototype for government, hoping that we can change the narrative from extractive to manufacturing, and of course from manufacturing for local to also encourage the issues relating to exporting. So basically that's economic zones, and this concept is a broad concept on the continent, and mostly it is something that has worked very well in Asia, China, Dubai in particular.
Great. So now tell us, how you joined the organization, where you found it, and where it is now.
First, I must say I was very lucky because I was joining our economic zone at the time when they were just exhausting their previous strategic plan, getting into replanning. Like I mentioned, as a finance person in my role, obviously like any other person, I was excited and had to start looking at the numbers. That was in March 2020. And again, as a new person, it was easy for me to start to identify areas where I thought I could maybe just try to enthuse myself and try to see if at all I can impact a bit of changes. Now, change as it were, unfortunately or fortunately, it happened at the top, where my CEO separated with the company. Now, that meant that suddenly we didn't have a CEO just after 1 month of my stay there. And the board, in its wisdom, thought they should give me a chance to act in the role. It was strange, I must mention, but it's a role that I actually accepted freely to take and see where we could lead to. And immediately, because we had just had one strategic plan expire, it gave me a chance to go through the learning phase of the company very quickly, because it's very important for you when you're at the top. If you don't know the business, you'll mislead everybody. So I had to learn from the deep end, and very quickly, a month was more than enough for me to just grasp the environment, the business environment around us. And I noticed there are areas where we could actually score easy. So we went into what I would call a replanning, coming up with a strategy. We knew where we were, we knew what we needed to do, because at that point, this company was not a profit-making company. This company had depended on government subsidy for survival. This company had a narrow stream of revenues. And at some point, I also noticed that we had weaknesses within the management structure. So our definition, I simply said we had to strategize. And immediately we started to do so. After we had defined what I would call my strategy, I had to go back, sit around and ask myself, does this strategy clarify the vision? Does it point to where we want to go? If the answer is yes, what resources do we have internally that would point to us getting to the vision? That strategy, luckily, all those elements were crafted. When I sat down to look at it,
Kennedy,
I noticed
let me not stop your train of thought, but I like where you are taking us. But I would like you to give us just a brief overview of when was this company established before you were joining in 2020, and what was the state? You've mentioned a bit that we had a limited stream of income, it was dependent on the government, and so on and so forth. It's been around for how long, and what was if you can give us a few numbers of what the financial situation was, what was the objective, and how far has it been with the first strategic plan? Has it been achieved?
Thank you so much. So this company was established in 2010 and commenced its operations in 2012. As I speak right now, this is 10 years of operations, but I must mention that from the onset of it, the company never recorded a profit. It was recording losses throughout until 2019. Now, this was quite interesting, because when you are meant to make a profit and you are making losses, it means you are eating from elsewhere. And a public enterprise, it means that probably your efficiencies might not be right, and probably you're not effective in your ambition to implement your strategy or actually your mandate. Now, I know this sounds like a common thing on the continent where public sector is not seen to efficiently churn out resources into profit. I think this is something that was part of my realization. Another thing that I noticed was we had very few investors. Like I mentioned, this is an economic zone, and our role involves us bringing in investors in so that these investors, once they invest, they also create employment, they contribute to the taxes for the country, and also contribute to the GDP. So at the time I was joining, we only had about 22 investors, 11 of whom were operational, and the total of that 22 was culminating into about, in dollar terms, about $340 million worth of investment, with only about 3,000 jobs having been created at the economic zone. There was also the reputation risk, where mostly our company was actually labeled as a white elephant. Now, for those that know economic zones on the continent, and I've had a chance to read most of these World Bank reports, if you read reports that were prior to 2021 especially, you might find that even our economic zone was still being labeled as a white elephant in those reports. Now, that damaged the reputation, and it created a blanket avoiding some of these good investors, both local and international, to come and invest with ourselves. So we were not a lucky company or a happy company in terms of the numbers. We were struggling, I must mention, and that meant that there was a lot of demotivation around the people that were working. The staff turnover was quite high. We were, I think, losing about 26% of our employees annually. No, these are people that want to get in an environment that is so happy, create the impact, and of course, see what it looks like. But I think we had a lot of people, especially the young folks, they would come and go. So that created a bit of confusion as to what really we were trying to achieve as a company. That is the environment I inherited.
Good. So go ahead now. What is the situation now?
So what we did, noticing that, like I mentioned, we decided to do a few things differently. And I'm using the word differently because in the corporate world, there's no way you only rely on one way of doing things. So my way was identify the weaknesses, identify the low-hanging fruits, and now find the resources to start making changes. So here is what I did. Firstly, after knowing where I want us to go, meaning on the vision side, I had to start to create a structure or the spine of the company through identification of very strong characters. Because, you know, when you have a vision you want to achieve, usually you don't want to carry weak people with you first. You want to identify strong characters. Some of them might not be very skillful, but they will be strong enough to bully their way through the direction you are headed to. So I started to create a management spinal cord. Identified people that we employed, new people that we brought in, and of course identified some old people that were there, but strong character, and created the spine through these people. We started forming what we call a team. Because, you know, a journey in strategy cannot be walked alone. And the leader at the top sometimes is just there to show direction and make sure that every time you are singing the anthem of your direction. So that team, strong as it was, we started speaking about, so how do we come out of this? How do we come out of that? Not as one individual, but as a collective. We decided to identify areas where we need to be stronger. One of the areas where we were weak was financially. So in our strategy, we thought of creating room for more revenue streams. We got out of our way into retreats where you just take this top management, go, you sit down, plan, brainstorm, and create new ways of making money. That was one thing that we did. We knew when we create money, we have the latitude and leverage to invest this money into infrastructure, which will make our company actually be more attractive. But we also saw an opportunity because from the point of view of reputation, we wanted to start correcting the narrative. strategically, we ensured we crafted one of our objectives to change the way people perceive us, to change the way the outward world perceived us. So we recreated the brand, so to speak, and spoke about it in the positive. We changed everything about our brand. We created a brand ambassador within ourselves who actually did very well to go out of the way to ensure that the brand was known differently. That team, as I speak right now, decided to start owning the process, because now it was not only the person at the top, there was a lot of buy-in. With that buy-in, we brought in a few more people that were necessary. Critical employment had to happen at some point, because we knew we would only do it through people. Now, what is interesting about leadership, and I want to mention this, is on my part, creating a team of strong characters might not be enough. What makes it enough is when the strong characters you have in your team know the vision. So I started to deliberately flag the whole corridors and, of course, our boardroom with our vision. It is dotted all over the walls for everybody to see. When you are walking along the corridors, you know where the institution is walking to. So the vision is in our faces. We sang about it in most of the meetings, and my management team, I believe they know and understand the vision of the company. Remember, the vision is only as good as it can outlive the vision carrier. If it died with me, it was never a good vision. So it's got to outlive me. And I believe my management team at the moment, in their understanding of the vision, believe that they can run with it even if I was not there. So that was the start of the transformational period. Now, once we had put in all these teams, of course, the strategy, there are other things that we also needed to be strong at. The company that we had inherited didn't have processes, it didn't have procedures, it didn't have anything to benchmark performance to. So we created our own internal control environment. We defined the policies, we defined the areas of improvement, and we decided to actually create a performance benchmark. From our strategic plan, we normally would draw these work plans and the like. But what was unique about this particular strategic plan, it was anchored on performance measurement, because we needed to measure each and every element of it. We developed a performance measurement system around what we call in the business world the balanced scorecard. The scorecard became something that was quite dear to us and would ensure we look into the scorecard and how we are performing every half year. Beyond the scorecard at company level, we also went down to ensure that each department had a scorecard speaking to the true north of the company. And every manager had to have their own performance measurement system, which would be appraised once every 6 months. This meant that suddenly, the company that could have been looking very bad had ambition to achieve certain things. And through the establishment of that performance measurement system, we started to look stronger in our numbers. Slowly but surely, we started to come out of our own. I want to speak about quickly 2021. Because we had become consistent in the way we were doing things, and there was consistent message from the top. And when I say the top, I'm at the top at the moment. Of course, we have a board, but when there's consistency at the top, what we started to see was the numbers of investors started to move. From what we had as 22, getting to the end of the year 2021, we were already sitting at about 70 different investors. From the value of only 340 million, we were already closer to $1 billion. And if I speak as at June, where we sit right now, we are already at $1 billion worth of investment. Now, this has happened over a period of only 2 years. What changed? Probably it could be leadership. But what else changed in the process? In the past 2 years, we've only lost 2 or 3 employees. One, of course, may so rest in peace, to COVID, and of course, 2 who went on to move on to look for new challenges. So from an attrition of 26% staff turnover, we changed that to only about almost 0 to 5%. As we sit in the past 18 months, nobody has left. There is motivation because everybody is chasing a dream. Remember, we have introduced a performance measurement system. So every one of my members come to work carrying something, knowing that there's something they've got to chase and there's some indicator they've got to be measured on, and therefore everybody is pulling in the same direction. So there's high motivation. The second thing that we've achieved is that there is stability. Okay, now that there's a defined structure of management and a defined structure from the board all the way to the top, there is that stability that the company has created, and now we are stronger. As part of motivation, we had a lot of our employees who are part-time, and I think they are almost half the numbers we had in the company. We're talking about closer to 18 people who are part-time employees. In motivation, this team of employees, we moved on because now we were able to pay. We employed them on a full-time contracts. That meant that the benefits the company was giving to every other employee were now benefits that could be shared with every other one of them, including those that would have been looked down as the very low level employees. So we brought in the motivation. That motivation gave us the results that we're talking about. So we had to move from a 5.4 million kwacha, I'll talk about dollar later, loss in 2019 to where we sit now. We're at about 5 million kwacha in profit. For the first time, the company is able to register a profit, and not only register a profit, but for the first time, we were able to declare a dividend this year to our board. I'm talking about after 10 years. We had to clearly define our ambition and change the way of doing things and believe in the people. I believed in my team. The team is larger than the company. The team is larger than me because they are carrying the company on their shoulders. This is the team that has made it happen. So I want to say the changes we made in the process, especially in the management style, helped us achieve where we are today and helped us achieve, it will even help us achieve more getting into 2022. Because I can tell you the truth, where we sit as at June 2022, the numbers look quite better than they were at 2021. So in a nutshell, I believe this is what we did. And I think it's working so far. And I want to credit it to the team that we created as a company.
Thank you so much, because you were giving us so much meat that I didn't want to interrupt. And I know you, I mean, since we met, you keep talking about the team. And I think this is very, very important for a lot of leaders to be able to learn from this. I'm sure that some people may have comments. Please go ahead, share what you are learning from all this story of Kennedy and his leadership, the transformation that he has been able to bring to an organization that was making so much loss, 5.4 million kwacha loss, and today he's made 5 million. He's been able to pay a dividend for the first time in a 10-year history. It took only 2 years to transform the organization, where they have 26% of staff turnover, and since he took over, only 3 people have been lost, 1 by death and 2 others. So go ahead, share your learning, because I have a lot of notes that I've taken and a lot of learning from this. But share with us what your learning is, and we will come back. But let me bring Sarah, just in case Sarah has some specific questions for Kennedy, and then we'll come to take your comments. And I have a few more, but I want to give you rooms. Your questions, please go ahead, ask your questions that you may have for Kennedy, put them in the chat, and I will read them to the whole wide world. All right, Sarah, you've heard this beautiful story from Kennedy, the finance person, moved to development, now doing amazing things as a general manager, leading a team. And he always prefers to call them the team and credits them with it. Do you have any questions, specific questions for Kennedy?
Thank you so much, Sam, and thank you, Kennedy, for coming onto the call today and for so many things that you have learned, you have shared with us. For me, look at what I have been doing. I have been drawing all the lessons that I am learning from Kennedy.
Wow.
Yeah, I
You
have
you have to send this to us.
and then I plotted the journey of Kennedy, of how they rose from non-profit to where they are now. And the key learnings that I'm taking with me is, first of all, he talked about character, how he started off and being endowed with leadership because of his position in the family. That's the family that is the family. That's him, the siblings, and then the brother, the parents. Okay, and then the parents, and then he talked about people, how people matter, and I could see him talking a lot about the team. So I'm trying to put all this into graphics so that I'll share with everybody these lessons that Kennedy has been very kind to share to us. I'm not good at drawing. It's a new skill I've learned, so I'm trying to.
All right. Thank you so much, Sarah. Do you have a question for Kennedy? Apart from all your art skills you're practicing.
The question I have for Kennedy is, Kennedy, right now where you are, where do you want to be 5 years from now? Yes, you've started making profits. You have been able to pay dividends to the investors and all the people. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? What is the vision?
Go ahead, Kennedy. Did you hear Sarah?
Okay. Thank you so much. Now, where do I see myself in the next 5 years? I would answer you in two ways. The first part of my answer would relate to the company. Remember that in front of me is the LSM Phase Limited that we are running. It's not good enough to be profitable today. What happens in posterity? So in the next 5 years, what I see of the company is growth. The company has to grow. Now that there's a team, again, I have to go back to the team because it's very important. And I think I'll keep on mentioning the importance of it. The team is there, and we see how good it is when you're profitable. We see how good it is when everybody's seeing you in the right light. What remains for the next 5 years is growth. Our strategic plan expires in the next 3 years now, which is 2025. Next year, mid-year, we'll be doing a medium-term review of our strategy to see if at all we needed to change a few things, improve certain areas, and maybe re-strategize, or probably to just give the company a new lease of life. We'll be doing that next year. That will define where we will be in the next 5 years. But I strongly feel that now that we've gotten the chance to test profitability, we can only grow and demonstrate that, yes, there is potential in this economic zone. There's a lot more that we can do. If we are sitting at $1 billion investment dollars, we should be talking about maybe 3-4 billion at that point. I think there's so much in terms of the company. But where do I see myself being in the next 5 years? And again, I would break this down in two areas. The first area is I do not want to believe a good leader stays forever. There is a moment when you have to learn that you've done so much, and there's got to be a moment when other people also come in. I want to believe the next 5 years will be a telling point for me from where I sit, knowing that I would have exhausted all that I needed to do to improve the environment. But what will be critical for me in the next 5 years, the second point that I raised, I need to start developing succession. I think every good leader needs to leave somebody better than them. I don't want to be the epitome of leadership for that company. I'm a forerunner in it, but I want to ensure that the time I'll be leaving, there will be somebody better in my seat, and also that there will be better opportunities to run the company better than I found it myself. So those for me are critical goals. The issue of leadership again continues to linger. The moment the company slows down because of my departure, I'll look back and feel that I failed in my role as a leader, because I want to believe I'm only as good as the next person that comes to take over from me.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so much. Sarah, that's your answer. Do you have anything more before I go to the other
Yes,
comment?
I do. I just love the fact that he's thinking about developing the next leader that, for the succession planning for the next 5 years. So what exactly have you started doing right now? How many people have you identified to be the next Kennedy, or the next Kennedy +1 +2 +3?
In trying to become a better version of myself, I've identified a team of 14 leaders, or 14 potential leaders. These are managers and executives. We've tried to tell ourselves, yeah, a team is only as strong as its weakest link. We are a chain. But I've tried to expose the executives to leadership roles within the company. For example, it's not every time that I've got to be the one to do things. So there's moments where you have to assign top level assignments to these executives, so they start to get themselves inherently trained, so that it becomes natural for them to take responsibility for decision making. It becomes natural for them to take responsibility for team building, coordination, collaboration, as well as planning. But I've also deliberately encouraged training. So at management level, everyone is now ascribed to what we call Toastmasters. I'm a Toastmaster myself, by the way, and part of my refinement in leadership is coming from there. So every member of my management team is a member of a Toastmasters group. That is an internal Toastmasters group as part of our internal training program, because I believe through that kiln, most of these potential leaders would be much, much better than I would have been ever in my life. They are amazing people, and I believe they possess much more than probably I would have possessed before I actually had a chance to lead anyone. So training has been emphasized, but also exposure. A number of governance training programs that keep on coming up. Everyone is attached to one of these at least in a year, so that they can actually beef up their capacities and prime themselves for takeover. And I just want to emphasize and believe that, yes, indeed, the one that will take over, if coming from the team that we are building, will be much, much better than the Kennedy you are talking to today.
Thank you so very much, Kennedy. Take your breath and take some water now. I'm going to come back to you in a moment, but I see a few people online. I see Hajia Alima is here. I see also, I don't know if it's your daughter or your wife, Mavis Hadwani Mwila. So Mavis is from Zambia. I suspect this must be your wife, but we'll see. All right. Lucy is watching. Lucy Likanga is watching from Belgium. Lucy, thank you so much. Cynthia Martinson is here. Doris, I'm here from Accra, Achimota. Thank you so much. Ebenezer Tufo is in Toulouse, France. Ebenezer, thank you so much. Doggy Tony is here. Setiam Nkrumah. Oh, he said the name is Jeffrey Nkrumah Gatsi from Accra. Watching. Martin Inchiako Frando is from Fosu. Chimulanga Malunga, sorry. Okay, you don't tell us where you are, but thank you for coming. I'm sure it's probably from Zambia. Charity Tente is here. He says it's great team. You're a great team leader. Okay. Chin Mulanga says great leadership style. It is clear he has motivated the employees and has aligned them to what the goal is. Good. Go ahead, share your learning. Thank you so much. And For that, Ebenezer Tufo, a good leader doesn't stay forever. There are moments when others may come in. This is so important, but not everyone recognizes it. That has to do with leadership succession, which is vital for success. Okay, so those are some of the learnings that we are picking from the platform. Please go ahead and share your learnings with us, because Kennedy would come and answer. If you have any questions for Kennedy, please feel free to bring them up. But you can see there's so much. I don't want to even attempt to recap the things that he has learned. He's emphasized so much on the team, owning the process. He also talked about the process that he put in place. He needed to put in place processes. He started by setting out his vision, developing a strategy plan, creating management, okay, a team of management, both old and new, strong characters that can help him because the team is critical. They identify the weaknesses and develop strategies to address them. Then he said they look for the low-hanging fruits and work quickly to pluck those low-hanging fruits. Those are some of the things that I am seeing. He says the vision must be repeated consistently. And he says everybody knows the vision. He says the vision is all over the place, in the boardroom, on the walls. And when I went to the office, I saw them all over the place. He talked about rebranding, recreating the brand. When you take over an organization that has a bad reputation of depending on government and not making money for 10 years, you need to rebrand. They appointed a brand ambassador to be able to do that. So those are some of the many points. He talked about performance appraisal system, the balance scorecard, which was put in place to be able to help others. And people are reviewed every 6 months. Every 6 months. And people are committed to the vision, and everybody has a goal that he's pursuing. And that is the motivation why people are not going. He emphasized consistency of the message from the top. Absolutely, very important. You know, I can have a book of what I've learned from Kennedy. If you have any questions, I don't see any questions. That means this is a good story, but share your learnings. Go ahead, share your learnings, feel free. All right. Let me bring back Kennedy. Before we go to Kennedy, let me go to Kofi to share with us a Live to Lead message, if Kofi, if you're available. So let me let Kennedy rest for a minute. Kofi, go ahead. Let's go if you are ready. All right. Okay. All right. So whilst Kofi bring up the video, I want to bring to your attention the John C. Maxwell Annual Leadership Conference, which we've been hosting for the last 5 years. This will be our 6th year. It's coming up on October 7th. This time is going to be virtual, so wherever you are, you can join. This is very high level for powerful leaders like the ones that Kennedy is bringing up to succeed him. And every year, thousands of leaders across the world participate. CTL Africa, we've been hosting this for the last 5 years. Here in Ghana, we used to have it in person, but since the last 2 years, it's been virtual. What is interesting about Live to Lead virtual platform is that you would have the event in your personalized, passworded portal, and you would have the lessons for 3 days after the event. From October 7th, you would have all the speeches, all the presentations, all the training for 3 days will be there. So you can go through them and learn as much as you can. So we want to encourage you. It's only $79, only $79 per person. But the interesting thing is that once you register, you have bonuses. In fact, the whole of last year's Live to Lead as a bonus on the portal, which you can keep for life. So there's so much value. You will have John C. Maxwell himself, the #1 leadership expert, speaking. You would have other amazing speakers. And we are also going to bring you the story of Patrick Ewua, who is the leading leader in Africa in the academic world. His university is reputed to be one of the best private universities in Ghana, with standards and quality character leadership. So the theme is leading with integrity for the common good of everyone. All right, so I'm still looking for comments. I'm not seeing comments. So I'm going to say the last time to see if there are any more comments. And if there is none, then we'll come back to Kennedy. All right. All right. So Kennedy, it looks like there are no questions for you for now. But let me ask this one. It cannot have been all that easy. What has been some of your challenges as a transformational leader? What are some of the obstacles you have had to work against?
Yeah, that's a tricky one, but let me try to give it my try. You know, the problem with the corporate world is its emphasis on profit, whereas matters relating to leadership have to do so much more with people. Now, for you to reconcile your hunger or appetite for profit whilst respecting and building people, sometimes it can be paradoxical. So you get yourself into moments where you've got to sacrifice a bit of profit and invest in people, and vice versa. Sometimes you've got to sacrifice a bit of people to ensure that you are seen in the right light. So the bigger challenges there are to be a leader and be profitable, especially for a company that is already ailing. When the company is at the top and doing very well, leadership can be very easy. But to change something from a falling knife into a positive enterprise, it requires a lot of sacrifice. A lot of times, I spent listening, just listening to the walls, listening to the people around, and trying to see how much I can get even from the unspoken silence or silent or words, because that would then give me a chance to create a platform for me to impose myself and also maybe my skill set. Another thing, in spite of the 2 years that we've spoken about seemingly being so short, I also had to learn to be a bit more patient with everybody. Because here is me who is coming, and there's a team that is already there, an old team. Before you bring in new blood, I've got to be patient with everybody. Because at some point, people have to start unlearning the old ways of doing things and to relearn new ways that I was trying to bring. That in itself doesn't just happen overnight. Then there's the greater thing of reluctance to change. Now, this one I wouldn't say change has been completely embraced. No. It still becomes a challenge because being a constant, we are changing every day. So sometimes employees feel, what can I say, fatigued because they want to see where the change will crystallize. Excuse me. But because of the nature of the environment we live in, business has to continuously transform. So the bigger challenge remains that change must happen in spite of it being resisted every day. Even new people you bring in, they come only ready for a particular moment of change. But the moment you want to change again, there's reluctance. That is a killer part sometimes when you want to compromise between leadership as well as running an enterprise that has to be profitable. So those are some of the difficulties around. And it's not also easy for everybody to buy in. We can talk about management buy-in, yeah, but does it mean that everybody has agreed with your vision? The answer might mostly be not really. People, yeah, they know it, but that's not where they want to go. They have their own ambition and also imagination of how the company should be run. That lack of buy-in, 100% buy-in, creates what we would call teams within your organization, where whilst others are wanting to pulling you ahead, others are pulling you behind. So the antagonism creates a feud within an enterprise that requires certain skill sets of you to start now diffusing and ensure that everybody seems to be happy. So challenges are what leaders are made for. Leaders are made to come and defeat those challenges. You are a leader defined by a situation. So I've learned to embrace those challenges and speak to them as moments of brilliance, because we have to come out stronger every time.
All right. Thank you so much. And this is going to be, I have plenty of questions and we can talk about this forever, but I know it's very late in Lusaka. So I'm going to ask you my last question. With all your experience as a leader from beginning to where you are now, my question, which is my last question for you, is what are the lessons that you have learned that you would like to, the key lessons you've learned that you will want to share with other leaders? And I mean other leaders, I want you to share with our political leaders quickly, business leaders, and one of my areas is the youth. So what are the key lessons that you would like to share from your experience with our political leaders in Africa, with our business leaders in Africa, and the young African leaders?
Okay, thank you so much. I'll try to share 3 lessons and we'll summarize them just after. Every time you are in a moment of leadership, know that there are 3 resources that you are going to interact with every day. The first resource is people. The second resource is physical assets, things that you see that are within your control. The third element you are going to also encounter, money. Of the 3 components I've spoken about, only one talks back, and that is human beings. So if you are going to create the center of leadership, it's got to be around people. When you are a leader, you don't lead things that are inanimate. You lead humans, and humans will talk back. But if you lead them well, humans do the job for you. So you've got to be emotively engrossed around humanity. Southern Africa, and I believe West Africa as well, we believe in Ubuntu. There is nobody who would be successful without embracing people. Learn to lead your people. Learn to learn your people. Submit to your people. And know that in leadership, there is no part of a team who is smaller. You are a servant leader at the end of the day. You are there, a representative. You are the epitome. They are looking at you. So it will be very important for you to embrace these 3 things. The second thing that I would want to say is you've got to be motivational. There's got to be something about you that the people you are leading get inspired to achieve, or something that they look up to when they look at you. You know, last week it was very interesting. One of my senior management team jokingly said, you know what, you've changed this place so much such that even the pen that you use, go to every office, you find that everybody has adopted using that pen. Not because it's the best pen, but perhaps you are motivating people beyond just results. So be motivational. People should look at you with envy of knowledge, envy of calm, and they should be believing that there's something about you that probably sits well with them and the company. So focus on people all the time. People do it for you. You can't do it when people are resisting. So for me, that's the anthem I would want to sing, and that's the message that I want actually every leader to embrace. Around people is the element of empathy. Be empathetic. Feel with them. When you're creating this environment, performance measurement, some of these things might not be achievable in the short term. Empathize with them. That way, the people or the team you're leading would know you are with them throughout the way. They will be a bit more buy-in and they will believe in your vision.
Wow. This is very, very, very good. Know the three things and remember that only people will talk back. So leadership should be around people. Be motivational and be empathetic. All right. This is very, very, very good. I'm seeing a few comments here. The challenge is real, selling the vision to your staff, spot on. That was from Shin. Lucy says Ubuntu, empathetic, Chapwa. Maybe that was all right. And he says, great. You are a good leader, sir. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. You are a great leader, says Lucy. Again, Chin says, wow, true fact. Striking a balance between profit and building people. All right. Kennedy, I cannot tell you how, happy I am that you came to this platform. Now we just have 2 minutes to go. What will be your last words to us and to Africa and to everybody?
In my conclusion, I noticed that my wife was spying on me. Thank you so much for being that support system. Okay. Yeah. But I think thank you so much, first of all, for hosting me on this program, which is a very good program for leaders, especially the young ones who are coming up. My message is very simple. Be original. Leadership is about you. You are your only original. You can't copy to be anybody else. Be also intentional. Leadership is many things. You will not learn it overnight in class. No. You've got to be intentional about it and be experiential. Okay. So being intentional is one thing, but find yourself in moments where you've got to be trusted to lead. It will be very important when you're an upcoming leader to be intentional about that. And also create your own ambition. Okay. I think ambition is what defines you as a leader. If you're not ambitious, you can imagine if Moses never took the people of Israel from Egypt, if he didn't know where he was headed to, if he had no ambition to do that, they would have been twice as lost as they were, in spite of him being the leader. So be ambitious and create that ambition visionarily. So let it be something that is pictorial, something that you can see every day. An ambition should be tangible in your mind for you to be excelling as a leader. So I don't want to confuse so many of us by putting up another 2-3 pages, but those 3 I would want to leave with the young and upcoming leaders to embrace. Be original, be intentional, and ensure that you carry ambition with you all the time.
Wow, this is very, very, very good. And for all those who are joining for the first time on this platform, every Saturday we are on this platform. It's live stream on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter Live, or CTL Africa. The CTL is the Center for Transformational Leadership in Africa. And every Saturday at 7 p.m. GMT, we are here with one great leader or the other. And you can all agree that this evening we have had amazing, amazing story of Kennedy. And next week, we are bringing you another great leadership, extraordinary leadership story from another woman. We've had a woman, we had 2 men, and we're going to have another woman share their story. So we encourage all of you. We are here. This platform is solely for leadership thoughts, leadership development, and we encourage you to join. We also have leadership training and lessons that we offer. If you contact us, we'll be able to help you. But Live to Lead is the highest leadership event across the world, hosted in more than 300 locations across the world. Thousands of leaders, high-level CEOs speaking leadership for a whole day. This is where you want to be every year. It's the Leadership Day, and we want all of you to be part of Live to Lead. It's scheduled for October 7th. Early bird ticket, $70 till the end of August. And from 1st September, we go to the full ticket, which is $79 only. For the value you get, It's amazing. So we want to thank all of you for making the time and spending part of your Saturday evening with us, especially those from Zambia and East Africa. We know it's very late, but you've been with us. God bless you and stay blessed. And as I say all the time, tomorrow is Sunday. Let us all go to church to thank God for our lives. Once again, Kennedy, we are grateful. Thank you for sharing your story with us. And we know that people have learned a lot. We'll let you to wait shortly and we'll wrap up with you. But for the rest, thank you and have a very, very good night.
You see, the only thing you got to worry about tomorrow is making sure that you make today count. This is your day to learn how to change your world.
I need you to focus on why you were born.
Let's not lose what made us, but let's grip the future and let's become the best version for next year.
Most success is when a person develops ordinary qualities to an extraordinary degree through the application of hard, sustained work.
Now, for some people, this is not easy, but there is no good reason for not doing it.
You and I were created to make a difference.